In a recent interview, Dr. Jordan Peterson revealed his intentions to become the next Prime Minister of Canada and shared his thoughts on the current political landscape of the country, as well as the ways he could contribute to the development of Canada with the help of his unique perspectives and experiences. His statements have heated up the entire political structure of Canada, as everyone knows how influential he is to the people of Canada with his conservative political views. Before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. Could he become the next Prime Minister of Canada? Through this video, we're going to discuss the possibility of Dr. Peterson becoming the next Prime Minister of the North American nation and stories developing around this controversial political statement. Jordan "Burnt" Peterson is a psychologist by profession, but is currently working as an author as well as a media commentator. He got the attention of the Canadian people with his views on cultural and political issues, which were labeled as conservative by Canadians. According to his personal views, he is a traditionalist and a classic British liberal. He is a well-known figure in Canadian society with a strong educational background. He possesses a bachelor's degree in political sciences and psychology from the University of Alberta. He obtained his PhD in clinical psychology from McGill University and got the opportunity to join Harvard University for research and teaching purposes. Peterson returned to his motherland in 1998 and joined the University of Toronto as a professor of psychology. Peterson's most notable publication was published in 1999 and titled Maps of Meaning: The Architecture of Belief, which combined different subjects like psychology, philosophy, neuroscience, religion, and mythology, and it became the basis for many of his subsequent lectures. He now carries out his lectures mainly through YouTube and podcasts, and with those platforms he has developed a fan base of millions. He gained great popularity with his YouTube series criticizing the Act to amend the Canadian Human Rights Act and the Criminal Code passed by the Parliament of Canada to introduce gender identity and expression as prohibited grounds for discrimination. His YouTube channel currently has 300 million views, and his podcast downloads exceed millions. His Facebook and Instagram accounts have 1.4 million and 3.1 million followers respectively. This huge popularity suggests his eligibility for the post of Prime Minister, as Canadians as well as the global community are already very familiar with him. The New York Times' David Brooke and Current Affairs' Nathan J. Robinson describe him as the most influential and intellectual person in the Western world. There is no conservative who is more popular than Jordan Peterson, and there would be no need to introduce his views to Canadian society, as everyone already knows him very well. He has described himself as a classical British liberal, and he has opposed the idea of being described as a supporter of the right wing by the media. Peterson can be identified as someone who supports universal health care, redistribution of wealth towards the poor, and the decriminalization of drugs. Yet the Western media has labeled him as a conservative. Wall Street editorial page writer Barton Swaim wrote, "I wouldn't describe Peterson as a conservative. His interest lies in individual rather than societal order, and he says little about public policy. But it's true that he does not infrequently wind up holding conservative viewpoints on cultural matters." Los Angeles Times libertarian journalist Kathy Young commented that Peterson's ideas are a mixed bag. He says some sensible and insightful things, and he says some things that rightly draw criticism. But you wouldn't know this from reading Peterson's critics, who generally cast him as a far-right boogeyman riding the wave of a misogynistic backlash. That's a mistake. Different people have labeled him with different definitions, but the best single word to describe him is conservative when you study his policies and views deeply. Dr. Jordan Peterson recently lost his license to practice psychology after sharing some of his political views on social media. He was disciplined by the College of Psychologists of Ontario, which is responsible for the regulation of the profession in the province where he lives. Canadian psychologists said that his retweeting of posts about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, leader of the Conservative Party Pierre Poilievre, Trudeau advisor Gerald Butts, and New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern put him in trouble. so Jordan Peterson was mandated by the college to modify his objectionable behavior because the institution was not happy about the social media communication of Dr. Peterson. Even though he was advised to do so, it's still unclear whether it was a violation of the college's code of ethics. This is probably connected with his intention to join the prime ministerial race this year, and now the government is doing anything to control Jordan Peterson, as every rival knows he is a great threat with his extreme popularity. I can either stop or give up or consent to the demands or continue the fight, and I'm not stopping, Peterson said, expressing his idea to battle against the college's decision. According to him, all these complaints are being brought forward by the political left wing of the country with the intention of closing Dr. Peterson's political chapter. He could bring about the betterment of society, but also some bad influences on society with his conservative way of thinking. We know that every politician has a good and bad side of their administration, as no one is perfect as a human or as a politician. He is a very famous figure in the Western world. His influential way of thinking combined with his superfly three-piece suits would class up Canada on the international stage. Without any high political influence, there are millions of people who follow his views, and that reputation would help Dr. Peterson to play a critical role in solving global issues that are having negative impacts on the entire world. Some of his ideas are more controversial, and this would bring rigorous debate to the House of Commons. Dr. Peterson is a reputed psychologist on the North American continent, and his academic background would surely result in bringing about a rapid improvement to the mental health sector of the country, with more money budgeted towards developing the associated services. With regards to his daughter's health history, Dr. Peterson would surely take the necessary actions to carry out a strong renaissance in organic, ultra-clean nutrition policies. But there are some key negative points that can be identified within the character of Dr. Robinson, which are bad for a successful ruler. Even though we're talking about the importance of freedom of speech, everyone knows that there are certain limitations to that freedom in nominally democratic societies. If Dr. Peterson became the Prime Minister of Canada, we could surely expect a loosening of tongues on the far right and a tightening on the far left. Whether Dr. Peterson means to or not, most people know that he is someone who acts in favor of the fringe element of the far right. On the other hand, Dr. Peterson can be considered a typical Canadian hyper-individualist. As we've seen recently, Canada has not turned into a hellhole of corruption slowly, and we cannot expect that Jordan Peterson will provide better solutions against this corruption, as he is famous as a man of his time and place. Jordan Peterson is more famous as someone who really cares about his personal autonomy over communal responsibility. Under his regime, we could expect more rules-free market and survival of the fittest, winner-take-all, losers-can-die broke type of economics, which is more harmful to people from lower economic levels. One key weakness of Jordan Peterson is his low interest in climate change. As a nation which is more influential in global climate problems, a country like Canada should be handled by a more environmentally friendly leader who is sensitive to global climate change. In a recent interview with The Telegraph, Dr. Peterson said the collapse of our values is a greater threat than climate change.
Global and even national attempts to deal with climate change are going to cause way more trouble than accumulated carbon dioxide.
While this might be true if one of those collapsing values is caring about sustainability, it gives you an idea of his legislative priorities. In combination, Jordan Peterson resembles Donald Trump, who is also a more conservative leader. But can any political movement resist the rise of Jordan Peterson as the next Prime Minister of Canada? Peterson strikes me as someone who thinks extremely thoroughly, a person who has spent years contemplating how the radical left or right might seize control of the populace and guide them toward genocide. He can see how people might be deceived. Peterson has also spent a lot of time considering how people may improve their circumstances in a positive way. Many of his followers claim that he has greatly aided them. Peterson actively creates, and does so by putting the knowledge of social science into practice, as opposed to becoming a threat to the public. Over the years, he has already laid the plot to become the next Prime Minister of Canada through his influential thoughts and views popularized over the years through social media, and now he is on the brink of execution of his plan. Do you think that Jordan Peterson has enough support within Canada to become the next Prime Minister? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel to get more exciting political and economic news. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.